Hey everyone, I'm Pacific the Casual Gamer, and in today's video I want to talk about why I started switching off of Acogs on weapons. Now, to get started, I still use Acogs. I use Acog on Hibana, I use Acog on Echo. You know, there's still a lot of operators I use Acogs on, but a lot of operators that I used to use Acogs on, I don't use Acogs on anymore. And I think this comes from this weird gameplay shift I did. So, about 2 months ago, I started taking Siege extremely seriously. And I decided I wanted to learn how to play Mozzie. Okay, no big deal, you know, Mozzie's got his guns. And I also wanted to use Gridlock. So I was playing around with Gridlock, I was playing around with Mozzie, and Gridlock, you know, our LMG with the scope, and I was playing Mozzie, he's got his SMG. And then I switched operators. I switched from Gridlock to Buck. And Buck, I do not use an Acog on, because his assault rifle on console is one of the most terrifying things to control in the existence of mankind on Siege. I'm a console player, and that gun, I don't use an Acog on, I use Reflex sight. So, my two mains at this point of Reflex sights, I don't have Acogs. I barely get to use Echo. I mean, because I have Mozzie, I sometimes try to main Echo, but Echo gets banned all the time. And Buck, I eventually sat down and forced myself to use him. And not only that, but every time I played Siege, I would warm up with 3 rounds of Terrorist Hunt using Buck. So I'm using Buck's Reflex sight, and I'm using Mozzie with a Reflex sight. So here I am using 2 operators with Reflex sights. And then I decide, well, I sort of don't want to use Buck as exclusively anymore. I want to use Thatcher. And I decide I want to use Thatcher's AR-33, which I use a Reflex sight on. So I have all these operators that I use Reflex sights on. And then eventually I pick up Mira and Goyo, and then I'm just not using Acog. And Reflex sight is, I would say, easier to control on console, mainly because of the imprecision you get with a stick. I just have started swapping Acogs out for Reflex sights. I mean, the most recent one was I went on Twitch's FAMAS and I went on Terrorist Hunt and I used her Acog. I think in total I've played 5 or 6 rounds of Terrorist Hunt with her Acog on, and then I swapped the FAMAS's Acog for a Reflex and immediately did better. Like, it was night and day to me. So I'm already used to using Reflex sight because I've been using Reflex sight for a while. I took it off of Gridlock's F90 because I decided I wanted to use her F90 for closer range. I literally took Gridlock, this operator that I had started using the LMG with the Acog on, and I swapped it to a close range setup F90. So, and I think it has to do with, I trained myself. I mean, I've been playing Siege since, like, it came out in December 2015, so I've been, or 2014, I don't remember, but like that January, a month after it came out, I've been playing Siege for that long, and I've always used Acogs. Anytime I have access to an Acog, I use an Acog, except for Buck and Thatcher's AR and Buck's C8. And to boot, I mained Rook for a long time. Rook is the operator I have the most hours on, and I use his MP5 with an Acog. So it seems very odd to me that I've been playing Siege for about 4 years up to when I switched, using primarily Acogs. You got Thermite with an Acog, you have Thatcher's L85, Sledge, Rook, you know, just all these operators with Acogs. But I use Reflex now, and it's 100% because of the controllability on the console. The Reflex and the Hollow and the Red Dot all have a level of, like, you know, on a PC you have basically expert level precision. You can place your mouse wherever you want and boom, your target goes there. With the console, I think that there's a Goldilocks zone for every single video game of what a good zoom level is, right? Let's just say Siege. If you have a handgun and you're aiming across the map with a controller, you're gonna have a terrible time with that. But if you have a zoomed in scope, like let's just say with Kali or Glaz, you're gonna have an easier time, right? Zoom too far in and you're screwed, right? It's too much. Well, if you look at Siege, Rainbow Six Siege, A lot of the maps are close range encounters. I think the average encounter is 8 to 10 meters in Siege, which isn't very long. That's like a standard size hallway in Siege, I think. And so you have these up close, you know, gunfights. And in Call of Duty, the gunfights like that, I played a lot of Call of Duty, the gunfights are the same way. Closer range. A lot of the time. Sometimes they're farther out. And that ACOG, for me, and the way that I play on my controller, extends beyond that Goldilocks zone. It's too much for me, right? It's not the best distance for me to play, because I have my controller on a certain sensitivity so I can survive close range encounters, right? That's what you have to do on a console. You have to make your controller sensitive enough so that you can spin around and kill people. So my super comfortable spin around kill people sensitivity doesn't work with zoomed in ACOG sensitivity, but it works really well with the normal red dot, hollow, and reflex sight sensitivities. So yeah, it's my thoughts about, you know, I swapped to reflex sights, and it's really just easier to use, makes more sense to me, and I don't know, it's just easier to use. It's very weird, but let me know what you guys think. Do you use ACOG or reflex sight, and what system do you play on? I'm Pacific the Casual Gamer. I suck just as bad as you do at video games, and I'll see you guys in the next one.